why did you wait so long
Who are you
to
with?
warn them?
Who are you with?
And why did you not have social distancing until March 16th?
Who are you with?
I'm Weijia Jiang with CBS News.
So, if you look at what I did in terms of cutting off or banning China from coming in.
Chinese nationals. But by the way, not Americans who are also
Nice and
coming
easy.
from China.
Nice and easy. Just relax. I did a ban where I'm closing up the entire country. How many people died?
And that's a fair point.
How many people died in the United States? And yet I closed up the country, and I believe there were no deaths, 0 deaths at the time I closed up the country. Nobody was there. And you should say thank you very much for good judgment.
Donald Trump still doesn't have a very good answer to a very important question. Why didn't he do more to warn Americans about coronavirus as it spread in February? Donald Trump has sought to avoid accountability for what's been called a lost month or a lost two by deflecting blame and blaming others. One of his targets, the World Health Organization. He insists that they, not he, mismanaged the early stages of the crisis. But a brand new blockbuster piece of investigative reporting from the Washington Post undercuts one of Donald Trump's central defenses. The Post writes this, quote, more than a dozen U.S. researchers, physicians, and public health experts, many of them from the CDC, were working full-time at the Geneva headquarters of the World Health Organization as the novel coronavirus emerged late last year. And they transmitted real-time information about its discovery and spread in China to the Trump administration. That's according to U.S. officials and international officials. The presence of so many U.S. officials undercuts Trump's assertion that the World Health Organization's failure to communicate the extent of the threat is born of a desire to protect China that is largely responsible for the rapid spread of the virus in the U.S. The administration calls this report by the Post misleading and emphasizes that those staffers weren't decision makers and that there was a disconnect with WHO leadership. We are joined now by our friend, former Assistant Director for Counterintelligence at the FBI, Frank Figliuzzi. Frank Figliuzzi, you don't have to know a lot about epidemiology of the World Health Organization to know that this will boil down to, in the minds of the American public, what did he know and when did he know it, as well as what should he have known? These were people that may not have reported directly to him, but they certainly reported to Anthony Fauci, who reported to Secretary Azar, who had a direct line. Any secretary, cabinet secretary, has a direct line to any chief of staff, and they should have a direct line to a president on the eve of a pandemic.
Nicole, the what should he have known question is the most problematic for the president, because when you start scratching that surface and you bring up the facts, you understand that we lost our CDC representative in Beijing just a couple of months before the outbreak of the case. You understand that when he starts pointing to China as that scapegoat he's so desperate to find, we understand that there were reports to the State Department from our own embassy in Beijing that problems were occurring in the Wuhan lab. We understand when he points to the WHO, the World Health Organization, as the cause of all of this for failing to warn him. We learn what? U.S. citizens, officials stationed at the World Health Organization were sending warning flags to Washington, right? So what are we seeing now? We're seeing a desperate search for a scapegoat, and we're seeing a president, as he ramps up toward an election and his poll numbers are down, is going to be increasingly desperate to find that scapegoat. But every time he points at one, it points right back at his administration that either can't message him correctly, his own economic advisors, his own intelligence community, all giving him memos, briefs, emails that we've got a threat coming at us, and he's not heeding the warning. So where is this going? If you're in law enforcement or your intelligence or domestic security, here's what I'm hearing, Nicole, from my law enforcement contacts. There's increasing concern about these protests that are spreading like a virus across the country, protesting public health measures, because we're seeing militia groups, we're seeing long guns, we're seeing Nazi symbols, we're seeing funding coming from where? Trump-associated donors, Koch brothers, Betsy DeVos, and that foundation. And so we're seeing a anti-science, anti-public health protest movement that actually is increasing exposure of law enforcement, and it puts law enforcement and mayors and governors in a trick bag, Nicole, because now they're forced to either take measures against protests that violate public health and safety, or they're accused of looking like anti-liberty, anti-free speech, anti-assembly. It's a magic potion that could get us to violence very, very quickly. I'm very concerned that we're entering the most volatile period of this president's administration.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.